The Complete Works of Swami Vivekananda, Volume 3, Section 4. Reply to the Address of Welcome at Paramakudi. Paramakudi was the first stopping place after leaving Ramanad, and there was a demonstration on the large scale, including the presentation of the following address. Srimat Vivekanand Swami. We, the citizens of Paramakudi, respectfully beg to accord to Your Holiness a most hearty welcome to this place after your successful spiritual campaign of nearly 4 years in the Western world. We share with our countrymen the feeling of joy and pride at the philanthropy which prompted you to attend the Parliament of Religion held at Chicago and lay before the representatives of the religious world, the secret but hidden treasure of our ancient land. You have, by your wide exposition of the sacred truths contained in the Vedic literature, disabsorbed the enlightened mind of the West of the prejudices entertained by them against our faith, ancient faith, and convince them of its universality and adaptability for intellect of all shades and in all ages. The presence amongst us of your Western disciple is proof positive that your religious teaching have not only been understood in theory but have also borne practical fruits. The magnetic influence of your august person reminds us of the ancient holy rishis whose realization of the self by asceticism and self control made them the true guides and perceptors of the human race. In conclusion, we must most honestly pray to all merciful that your holiness may long be inspired to continue to bless and spiritualize the world whole of mankind. With best regards, we beg to subscribe ourselves, Your Holiness, most obedient and devoted disciples and servant. In the course of his reply, the Swami said, it is almost impossible to express my thanks for the kindness and cordiality with which you have received me. But if I may be permitted to say so, I will add that my love for my country and especially for my countrymen will be the same whether they receive me with the utmost cordiality or spurn me from the country. For in the Gita, Sri Krishna says, men should work for work's sake only and love for love's sake. The work that has been done by me in the Western world has been very little. There is no one present here who could not have done 100 times more work in the Western than has been done by me, and I am anxiously waiting for the day when mighty minds will arise, gigantic spiritual minds, who will be ready to go forth from India to the end of the world to teach spirituality and renunciation. Those ideas which have come from the forest of India and belong to the Indian soil alone. There comes periods in the history of the human race when, as it were, whole nations are seized with a sort of world weariness, when they find that all their plans are slipping between their fingers, that old institutions and systems are crumbling into dust, that their hopes are all blighted, and everything seems to be out of joint. Two attempts have been made in the world to found social life. The one was upon religion and other is upon the social necessity. The one was founded upon spirituality and the other was upon materialism. The one upon transcendentalism and one other upon realism. The one looks beyond the horizon of the little material world and is bold enough to begin life there, even apart from the other. The other, the second, is the content to take its stand on the things of the world and expect to find the firm footing there. Curiously enough, it seems that at times the spiritual side prevails and then the materialistic side, in wave-like motion following each other. In same country, there will be a different tides. At one time, the full flood of materialistic ideas prevails, and everything in this life, prosperity, the education which proceeds, procures more pleasures and more food will become glorious at first, and then that will degrade and degenerate. Along with the prosperity will rise the white heat, all inborn jealousies and hatred of the human race. Competition and merciless cruelty will be watchword of the day. To quote a very commonplace and not very elegant English proverb, everyone for himself and the devil take the hindmost becomes the motto of the day. Then people think that the whole scheme of life is a failure and the world would be destroyed had not spirituality come to the rescue and lent a helping hand to the sinking world. Then the world gets new hope and find a new base for new building, and another wave of spirituality comes, which in time again declines. As a rule, spirituality brings a class of men who lay exclusive claim to the special powers of the world. The immediate effect of this is a reaction towards materialism, which opens the door to scores of exclusive claims until the time comes when not only all the spiritual powers of the race but all its material powers and privileges are centered in the hands of very few, and these few standing on the neck of the masses of men want to rule them. Then society has to help itself, and materialism comes to the rescue. If you look at India, our motherland, you will see that the same thing is going on now. That you are here today to welcome one who went to Europe to preach Vedant. Would you have been impossible had not the materialism of Europe opened the way for it? Materialism has come to the rescue of India in certain senses by throwing open the doors of life to everyone, by destroying the exclusive privilege of caste, by opening up to discussion the inestimable treasures which were hidden away in the hands of very few who have even lost the use of them. Half has been stolen and lost, and the other half which remain is in the hands of the men who, like dogs in the manger, do not eat themselves and will not allow others to do so. On the other hand, the political system that we are struggling for in India have been in Europe for ages, have been tried for centuries, and have been found wanting. One after another, the institution, system, and everything connected with the political government have been condemned as useless, and the Europe is restless, does not know where to turn. The material tyranny is tremendous. The wealth and the power of the country are in the hands of the few men who do not work but manipulate the work of millions of human beings. By this power, they can delude the whole earth with blood. Religion and all things are under their feet, and they rule and stand supreme. The Western world is governed by a handful of Sherlocks. All those things that you hear about constitutional government, freedom, liberty, and parliament are but jokes. The West is groaning under the tyranny of the Sherlocks, and the East is groaning under the tyranny of the priest. Each must keep the other in check. Do not think that one alone is to help the world. In this creation of the impartial Lord, He has made equal every particle in the universe. The worst, most demonical man has some virtues which the greatest saint has not, and the lowest worm may have certain things which the highest man has not. The poor laborer who you think has no little enjoyment in life, has not your intellect, cannot understand the Vedant philosophy and so forth, but compare your body with his, and you will see his body is not so sensitive to pain as yours. If he gets several cuts on his body, they heal up more quickly than yours wound. His life is in the senses and he enjoys there. His life also is one of the equilibrium and balance, whether on the ground of materialism or to intellect or to spiritual, the compensation that is given by the Lord to everyone impartially is exactly the same. Therefore, we must not think that we are saviors of the world. We can teach the world a good many things and we can learn the good many things from it. We can reteach the world only what it is waiting for. The whole of the Western civilization will crumble to pieces in the next 50 years if there is no spiritual foundation. It is hopeless and perfectly useless to attempt to govern mankind with the sword. You will find that the very centers from which such ideas of government by force sprang up are the very first centers to degrade and degenerate and crumble to pieces. Europe, the center of manifestation of material energy, will crumble into dust within 50 years if she is not mindful to change her position, to shift her ground and make spirituality the basis of her life. And what will save Europe is the religion of the Upanishad. Apart from different sects, philosophies, and scriptures, there is one underlying doctrine. The belief is the soul of man, the Atman, the common to all our sects, and that can change the whole tendency of the world. The Hindus, Jains, Buddhists, in fact, everywhere in India, there is an idea of the spiritual soul, which is the receptacle of all power, and you know full well that there is not one system of philosophy in India which teaches you that you can get power or purity or perfection from outside. But they all tell you that these are your birthright, your nature. Impurity is merely supreme imposition under which your real nature has become hidden. But the real you is already perfect, already strong, who you do not require any assistance to govern yourself. You are already self strained. The only difference is in knowing it or not knowing it. Therefore, the one difficulty has been summed up in the word Advaita, that is avidya. What makes the difference between God and man, between saint and sinner? Only ignorance. What is the difference between the highest man and the lowest worm that crawls under your feet? Ignorance. That makes all the difference. For inside that little crawling worm is logged infinite power and knowledge and purity, the infinite divinity of God Himself. It is unmanifested, it will have to be manifested. This is the one great truth India has to teach to the world because it is nowhere else. This is spirituality, the science of the soul. What makes a man stand up and work? Strength. Strength is goodness, weakness is sin. If there is one word that you find coming out like a bomb from the Upanishad, bursting like a bombshell upon the mass of ignorance, it is the word fearlessness. And the only religion that ought to be taught in the religion of fearlessness, either in this world or in the world of religion. It is true that fear is the sure cause of degradation and sin. It is fear that brings misery, fear that brings death, fear that breeds evil. And what causes fear? Ignorance of our own nature. Each of us is here apparent to the emperor or emperors. We are the substance of God Himself. Nay, according to the Advait, we are God Himself, though we have forgotten our own nature in thinking of ourselves as little men. We have fallen from the nature and thus made difference. I am a little better than you, and or you than I, and so on. This idea of oneness is the great lesson India has to give. And mark you, when this is understood, it changes the whole aspect of things. Because you look at the world through others' eyes than you have been doing before. And this world is no more a battlefield where each soul is born to struggle with every other soul, and the strongest get the victory and the weakest goes to death. It becomes a playground where the Lord is playing like a child, and we are like his playmates, his fellow workers. This is the only a play, however terrible, hideous, and dangerous it may appear. We have mistaken its aspects. When we have known the nature of soul, hope comes to the weakest and the most degraded, to the most miserable sinner. Only declares your Shastra. Despair not. For you are the same whatever you do, and you cannot change your nature. Nature itself cannot destroy nature. Your nature is pure, and it may be hidden for millions of aeons, but at last it will conquer and come out. Therefore, the Advaita brings hope to everyone and not despairs. Its teaching is not through fear, its teaching is not through devils who are always on the watch to snatch you if you miss your footing. It has nothing to do with devils, but says that you have taken your fate in your own hand. Your own karmas has manufactured for you this body, and nobody did it for you. The omnipresent Lord has been hidden through ignorance, and the responsibility is on yourself. You have not to think that you were brought into the world without your choice and life and left in this most horrible place, but to know that you have yourself manufactured your body bit by bit, just as you are doing it this very moment. You yourself eat, nobody eat for you. You assimilate what you eat. No one does it for you. You make blood and muscles and body out of the food. Nobody does it for you. So you have done all the time. One link in the chain explains the infinite chain. If it is true for one moment that you manufacture your body, it is true for every moment that has been or will come. And all the responsibilities of good and the evils in on is on you. This is the great hope. What I have done that I can undo. And at the same time, our religion does not take away from mankind the mercy of Lord. That is always there. On the other hand, he stands beside this tremendous current of good and evil. He, the boundless, the ever merciful, is always ready to help us to the other shore. For his mercy is great, and it always comes to the pure in the heart. Your spirituality, in a certain sense, will have to come the basis of the new order of society. If I had more time, I could show you how the West has yet more to learn from some of the conclusion of Advaita. For in these days, the matter of materialistic science, the ideals of the personal God does not count for much. But yet, even if a man has a very crude form of religion and wants temples and forms, he can have as many as he likes. If he wants personal God to love, he can find here the noble ideas of the personal God. Such has very never attained anywhere else in the world. If a man wants to be a rationalist and satisfy his reason, if it is also here that he can find the most rational ideas of impersonal.